Hi everyone, my name is Miguel. I'm an environment artist and I'm currently working for Jump Button Studio. And today we're going to do a breakdown on one of the scenes that I created, which is the abandoned playhouse, as you can see right here. So this scene contains a lot of new workflow that I found, and at the same time how you can speed up your workflow, and especially on um, especially on realistic assets, and how you can speed them up on production modeling and etc. I'm going to show you my reference board, and as well as the concepts that that what inspired me to create this scene, and how I got into this final looking amazing scene. So as you can see here, I usually start on the concept stage, and then I go for a blockout stage, drafting lighting stage, and then final stage, which is the final result. So now let's focus on the concept stage. So this is my reference board. Oh, if you're wondering what this amazing software is for reference, it is PureRef, of course. If you haven't checked it out, just search PureRef. It's PUREREF. It's pure. It's free. You can use it. It's amazing. I don't know who the creator is, but he's amazing. Better check it out. I'll place a link in the description below. So my inspiration of this is basically to create an entrance, somewhat an entrance, but I want it abandoned. So I gathered all my reference that I like, especially the gate and stuff like that. I may never get to use this, which is sad. But it's just something to get my head, something to wrap my head off, and get to even just this one right here. I really like the mood, so taking that as a reference is really helpful. And what my goal really is to capture the lighting and the mood. This is really what my ideal lighting, and like my ideal look. I couldn't copy this. It's like I want to be, so as much as possible I want to stay original and create your own. So this is the lighting, which is that I really like, which is it's like really soft, it's warm, and it's really welcoming because of the warm light that's that is from that gate, and it's really looking amazing. So that's the ideal lighting that I kind of aim for. And I've been also looking at like a bunch of real life references, so including this one right here, which is this is like a reference for like fall. I think this is fall, and we never have fall here in the Philippines. I'm sorry. So this is one of the references here. I just really like something that's really naturey, so I took that as a reference, and this one as well, because it's like very enchanted, and got that that fresh feeling. So I want that too. I also want to capture that. And so I like this. I like to. So what I really like about this dumpster is like the detail on the side, which as you can see here in the left, you got that this steel looking thing on the side sticking out on both sides. I really like that. So I decided to like, why not use that onto my actual model on the sides right here. And and if you're wondering right here, I've actually done a bunch of okay, so on the concepting, we can actually go to one of I actually use 3D for this, just to like because like I'm not really good at concepting, so kind of like, I'm more of a traditional artist more than a digital artist. So I used 3D and then did a paint over that. So that's the concept right here, and I did a bit of photo bashing by adding this detail bar right here. So I found this right here on textures.net. Textures. Let me check again. So this is textures.com. This is where you can find a bunch of textures. And basically, you only have 15 credits that they give you a day. So you can use this. It's basically free. You can use it as a reference or do photo bashing. So as you can see, they have doors, plasters, everything that you need. All you have to do is, they even have 3D scans. So it's a really great place that you can actually have a grip on and try to do concepting a little bit and just use this as like a reference as well. Because like if you actually search door right here, you can get for like hundreds and thousands of doors as a reference, and you can use these doors as an inspiration. So we got a bunch of doors here. So I did a few photo bashing here. So okay, alright, so that's how I figured out my concept. This will be my final concept, and this is the goal that I want to create. I want to have that same lighting scenario, not the exact lighting scenario, but just have that same feel of that warm light coming through. So this lighting right here, like just passing through this tiny girl right here, I want to capture that, you know, and just place that here on the side of the house. So this is, you know, it's pretty great. Okay, and now let's go to my blockout. Okay, so for blockout, so this is basically the same base mesh that I used to do the paint over. So as you can see here in the concept, I just used this blocked out. So I did basically a rough blockout. So this is and after that I decided to use this as my final blockout, because like I just want to do 3D instantly. Just want to get my hands over that, because like as much as possible I want my concept to translate onto 3D seamlessly without having to change anything. So having to create the blockout first and then do the concepting. Basically the concepting would be like just having a paint over from my blockout. So having to use that is really great, and it really speeds things up. And yeah, so this is like a rough concept slash blockout that I used. So I think that's what you can see over here in my art station. That's the blockout stage that I have. And then, from there I start to do my draft lighting. Now, if you actually go here to my scene, go to my set. Oops, sorry. It's just load. Okay. So my okay, it's quite intense. All right. So this is my lighting right here. This is basically the final piece that you already saw. And okay, so let's go back to our station. So the draft lighting. Now, the draft lighting is where I actually started doing the 3D modeling for all of the assets. And then from there I start, just to make sure that the assets that I created is like consistent to consistent to the surroundings, and no one is like sticking out, as they say. What I mean by sticking out is like unusual. It's not really like part of the scene. It's not like consistent. Every asset is not like or let's say that specific asset is not from the same world because it's too perfect. It doesn't have any scratches. It's not grungy enough. So I want to basically like try to place everything, all the all the models that I placed in here. So you can see here on the draft lighting, these are the assets, the production assets, which hasn't been UV'd yet or even baked into a high poly mesh, which is not all of the assets here are baked. So that's including the house, but we're gonna talk about baking later and all the texture and stuff. So basically, when I do the drafting lighting, it's basically trying to fit everything. You know, I usually do. I usually place the lighting, and then if if everything goes well, and okay, so you know, what I'm trying to want to like see here is that if all the shapes and assets are like seamless. And what I mean by seamless is that, you know, like it doesn't look unusual, everything just fits together perfectly, and then I start to texture those. Because like if it doesn't look great, or there's some production assets that doesn't look great, or even the shape wise, that you know that or silhouette, or yeah, shape wise is not good enough, I usually just go back to I usually just scratch that, throw that asset away, and don't continue texturing that, and just try to create something that's that's more fit, that's more fitted to the scene. That's basically my draft lighting stage. Is try to make everything fit on the scene with a good lighting on it, and trying to make everything as seamless as possible and as consistent. So that's what I'm trying to achieve there. And what else do? Okay. Sorry if I'm actually over talking. So okay, so let's go back to the concepting and reference board. So as you can see here, these the light no, the electric posts I've been using a lot of reference. Especially this one is just my favorite reference for the actual electric socket. I found it in the same as in this site right here. It's called textures.com. You can search it, and or I can just place a link in the description below. Okay, so let's go back to PureRef. So this is basically the same model that you see on my model right here. If you go here, you can see that tiny little guy right there. It has the same shape. Really like that because you know it sounds legit. So basically what I do, if you know something that you know if it just tells a story, you know, it's important to tell a story on your models, you know, on what happened. You know, everything has a story. So let's say the scratch at my mouse, maybe my mouse is pretty smashed because my computer isn't working great. Everything tells a story. So you have to tell the story onto your individual assets, and not just randomly placing scratches and crazy shit like that. So that's what I'm trying to achieve there, is like just to like see how the flow goes, you know, like how this, why is there let's say why is there rust in here? That's because there's like rain. Over time, rain has been like, you know, hitting that same metal, and at the same time it's been there for so long, it's started to corrode and rust over time, and it starts to like give up, you know. So it still you know, individual objects tells a story. So that's what I'm trying to achieve to each of my models, is to tell a story from them. So let's now talk about okay, so we're done with draft lighting. We're gonna talk about my modeling workflow. So basically, in my modeling workflow, finally, I usually just do, okay, so let me go back to my Maya. So I'm just going to hide everything. Okay. So on my modeling workflow, I actually just okay, so let's actually have a cube for a second. Okay. Okay, I think my mouse is working, right? Okay. Alright. So let's have a cube right here. And okay, so let's have a shape right here. And hold on, not okay. Hold on a second. Okay, so my computer isn't working great when I do recordings, so I'm pretty sorry about that. Extrude that. So let's say this is our final model. So this would be a let's say a wall piece. So this wall piece right here, this is like a piece that we can use and repeat for a wall. So if you do that, you got 2 walls now, and you can do that. It's gonna be super great. It's stylable. You can use it all of your assets. So let's say this is our final low poly mesh. So on how would I bake this? I can't just instantly bake this because it's just going to bake like super, like not a lot of geometry to like bake in. So if I, let's say I want to, when I do baking, I want to smooth the edges, and I don't want to add more edges here on my low poly model. That's just making it more dense. So I want to bake the high poly model to my low poly model, and basically making my edges much more smoother. At the same time, it's low poly and it's not dense. So to do that, what I usually do, and the same thing with my workflow on my houses and how I create the assets and how I bake them. Usually this is much more faster than importing in ZBrush and do a high poly sculpt there. It's just gonna really be a pain in the ass, and it's gonna take a lot of time. I mean, you can do that, add more grunginess to it, make it much more, crazy. You can do that, but it's gonna take more time. So my simple approach, just to do a really simple bake and having to have smooth edges, is that I usually just, so I usually, let's say, get everything here. Don't include these edges right here. So what's important are these main edges that are making the shape, which is this one right here, is this one. So use those edges. So, and now what I usually do is just do a bevel onto them if I want my edges to be smooth, and I'm going to use it as a wall piece. Great. So I use chamfer off, and then I usually usually press 1 or 2, but I usually press 3 to instantly go to wireframe. You can see it's pretty smooth, and actually 5. So you can see it's pretty smooth now, but it has some weird artifacts onto it. But you can just clean that up on ZBrush later. I mean, on Substance Painter when you do the baking, you can just clean that up. I can show you that, but just give me a moment, okay? Alright, so if you want your edges to be much more smoother, this is too sharp for you. So what you can do is, hold on a sec. If you go back here, Control B. So basically you can use the chamfer on, so that's basically just the bevel. If you go here, so what chamfer is just adding more edges to the bevel. That's pretty much it. And without the bevel itself, so just adding more edges to like support the whole shape. So go back here, and if you want it to be like much more smoother, right, and you want to bake this already and stuff like that, make it quick. What you do is you just go to right here, fraction, and you can just make this smooth, but don't go beyond, because like if you go beyond 0, it's going to be like this. So if it says max 1, you can always go 2, 3. Don't let the numbers define you here into the poly bevel or the bevel. You can always edit that. You can make it much more smoother, much more puffier. It really depends on how you it really depends on your taste. Let's say if you use this as a low poly model for a stylized game as a wall piece, you can always do that. So you can have this, or you can go much more smoother, but you have to know that there's some point that there's the highest number that you can go before it actually goes to a very, very high number, and then it doesn't hold its shape anymore. So if I go to 15, it doesn't really go to, it goes crazy because it's too dense to handle it, and there's not much information in your model that's giving. So you don't want to go crazy on this. So as much as possible, you have to go to 8, or not 8, that's too crazy. 4, something that's reasonable that you can bake inside Substance Painter. And so let's say that's our final model. We can always just go here to dump. Alright, so you can see this is your new mesh. It's trying to preserve the mesh or the shape itself that's creating. So that was just a preview mode. That wasn't the final look of the mesh. That was just a preview mode, and then you have to finalize that by smoothing the mesh. So you can either go crazy with this, you can go 2 just to make it much more denser and to hold the overall shape. You can do that. So now this is your actual shape. Now if I turn off smooth mode, it's going to retain the shape just like that. Pretty easy. And now you can use this and bake. So that's what I usually do if I do quick baking and try to smooth the edges out, so I could like use this information to create maps for my models. So now let's go to my modeling UV workflow. Now everyone usually they usually use Maya to do modeling inside Maya. I mean UVs inside Maya, which I don't really recommend using. I don't really recommend using Maya to do UVs, especially just for me, because I'm not really fast at like doing UVs in Maya, inside Maya, because like I don't know, there's just things that I'm not comfortable using it with, compared to if I were to use another software to do UV unwrapping, which is you can do this much faster. And because like a good example that I'm having when I do this is, let's say if I had this model right here and I have to unwrap this. Basically you have to once you cut the edges, you unwrap, and then once you do the unwrap, the textile isn't consistent. There are like parts of the models the textiles are way too huge. So what I'm talking about textiles here is these. So if you go here, you can see that sometimes when you unwrap it, some parts of the model are like very stretched, and it has a lot of artifacts, and you have to fix that and readjust everything to be like aligned. So it takes a lot of time. So unless if I were to just get this model right here, this is already unwrapped. So if I were just to get this model and go to export selection, and oh boy, okay, I don't have OBJ or FBX, so fuck. Alright, let's go to preferences here. Oh, sorry for cursing. Okay, so let's preferences, plugin manager. So if ever you have issues as well, like when you try to export and OBJ or even FBX is not there for exporting, you can always go to plugin manager, search for OBJ or FBX, or even Arnold. If it doesn't show up, just go here. I'm gonna load that, and I'm gonna load FBX. Just usually go for 2. Refresh that, and let's go back to export selection. Okay, now we got OBJ. Yay. I'm gonna call this wall piece. Now I have so just like I said on UV unwrapping, so it takes so long if you do UV unwrapping in Maya. So my workflow, I use a separate software which is called RizomUV. So if I go here to desktop, okay, yeah, place it there. All right. So basically RizomUV, it's a paid software, but you can always I don't want to tell it. So, um, so it's a paid software, but it's also worth it. It makes UV much faster and quicker for you. So, if I load the model, you can choose. You can basically choose this. I'll load with the UV, but I usually just load the model only because like the point here is you have to unwrap the model, and it just creates another set of UVs. Not really another set, but unwrap the UVs for you. Okay, so alright, FBI OBJ. Alright, let's go to OBJ. World piece, OBJ. Okay, cool. Now we got this amazing piece that we modeled. Now what's next? We actually what's great is that you can actually just use. Okay, so we already have this. You can select edges and stuff like that. But what's great with this software is that you can do this. Select one edge right here, and then where you want it to stop. So by clicking shift, you can instantly cut one edge like that. Just that easy. And you can repeat that. Right here, shift, just press shift again. And what else? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut it from here. Oh, no. Cut that. So the shortcut for cut is C. So cut this right here, and then cut that right there. Then basically creating a loop, something like that. So it basically cuts this part off and then cuts the same other part off. Alright, so we're having this weird ass piece right here. Now what do? We can always do an edge loop. So if you just double click, see? It auto finds an edge loop for you to cut, which is so great. You know, you don't have to individually press each edge and try to cut it. That's gonna take a long time. So you just double click. So you just have to double click just like earlier, and it finds an edge loop just like that, and then you cut it. And now once we have that, we can actually, let me just check. Sometimes you have to go beyond. Anyway, let's go here. Alright, yeah, we can, I think, no, we don't have to cut it there. Wait, did I undo that part? No, I didn't, okay. So, okay, so you don't want to waste your time here, so we can cut, no. So you can basically cut this part right here. Make an edge loop. No, not an edge loop. Sorry. I keep saying that word for some reason. Okay. And boom. All you have to do is cut that. Same with this part right here. Cut this part. Ooh, okay. This is much more shorter. So when it turns blue, it actually means that that's like the draft where you want to do a final cut before you press C. And then when it's orange, that means it's already finally cut. So now once we do the UV unwrapping, all you have to do is unfold, and voila, you got your UVs. Okay, so we didn't really do amazing part here in the UV cutting, but Okay, so that's just an example of what you can do. Yeah, but we can just fix that later on. So that's how fast you can actually do UV unwrapping here. Or what's also great is that if you're actually if you do a quick sculpting and then you want to import it and do a auto UV unwrapping, you can do that as well. What you can do is let me just undo everything first. Okay, so you can go here to this one right here, the mosaic select, and press this. And now you can also optimize it. By the one that optimizes it's just making worse. And then you place it inside, and then you got your UVs, and it's that simple. So it really makes UVs much more quicker and simpler. So enough with the UVs. So that's how I do my UV workflow. It's much more quicker, faster, and easier to do UVs there rather than to do it manually on Maya, which is really a pain in the butt. Alright, so now let's go to the texturing workflow. Now my texturing workflow, it's not like any kind of texturing workflow because I usually use scans. So I usually, so I have Quixel Mega Scans. So basically, thanks to Epic, I've been using Unreal Engine for 2-3 years now, since 4.18. So I've been using for quite some time, and okay, so let me just show you. So basically, this is okay. So this is an example of my texturing. So when I do texturing, I usually especially to make your workflow for texturing, to make your workflow on texturing and make it look much more good, I usually use scans because scans are much more faster. You know, you don't have to take a lot of time creating individual materials just to texture your model, which is really tedious if you have to go to Substance Designer. I mean, if you're good at Substance Designer and you can quickly create a material, then great. But what's also great is that you can go to scans. So I basically have a plugin that's available on Quixel. So I basically found this on the Quixel forum. I will place a link down description below if you also want the plugin that you can use. So it only works on Substance Painter 6.1.0 or anything that has JavaScript and Python included. So if you go here to Substance Megascan link, so you can see here Megascan's link. This is a plugin that Dark Image made. He's pretty amazing. He's a flipping god for creating this amazing plugin. You know, that I got to use it on my pipeline and workflow for texturing. He's amazing. So if you can see here, there's an example video GIF. So all you have to do basically is you click export and just export your textures onto Substance Painter in the shelf. Just instant, you know. All you have to do basically there, if you don't know how to use it as a material, you know, how we have this question, how do we use this as a texture? So, and you know, and like how do we use this as a texture? How do we texture this for our material, stuff like that, to use textures? So you can, all you have to do is basically sorry if I keep saying that. So all you have to do basically is you have to create a fill layer, and then you go here and basically all the information that Quixel gives you from exporting. So it gives you a height map, ambient occlusion, normal map, color map, and everything that you need. You just place it here, or if you don't have it in the material, you can add materials more here. So just quick channels, you can add more materials information there. So, which is great, right? So now you can use this for texturing. But is it tileable? Yes, it is tileable. So all you have to do is go to the fill layer. You can see here, you can see the UV transformations. Scale, you can scale it and you can rotate it. You can do offsets. It's pretty amazing how Substance Painter is pretty flexible in terms of texturing. Because for me, you know, I also, if you're like me, who's also forced to like relearn, not really relearn, because like you just I really don't like using Quixel to do texturing, because it's just there are tools that are not available in Mixer that is available in Substance, which is the baking part. You have to go to Marmoset to bake it and go back import those informations, which is really pain in the butt if you want to make this workflow much more faster and efficient. So as much as possible, you have to learn efficiency when you're in the industry. So for me, what I did is just make a fill layer. You can do all this. You can mask it. Basically, Substance Painter has all the shit you need, and you don't need ID maps. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't need ID maps if you just want to texture a section of your model. So a good example with that is if you go here to properties, is it called properties or polygon fill? And then, but first you need to, okay, before I jump on that, so just like I said, if you create a fill layer and place it on a folder and name it, you can and then you can do a right click and create smart materials. So that's basically what I did, is if you right click and you can create a smart material, which is great, you know. Now you can store this inside Substance Painter. So I actually imported some materials from Quixel, and these are the materials that I have. We got a folding and it's not just Substance Painter that you can do this. You know, as long as you have a texture, you can import this inside Substance Painter and use it as a texture or a smart material. You can also use any text sites that has textures and just download them, import them to Substance Painter, create a smart material, instant, boom, 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 save time, there you go. So, okay, so for example, for this leaves, all you have to do is just import that, just place that onto your layers, make a mask. So that's basically what I did here. So if you go here to mask right here, I think this is, no, that's not the mask. There you go. So this is the mask that I have. I just use a brush right here. Give me a moment. Brush. So you can create brushes, and you can use brushes to do the masking manually. You can do the manually masking, or you can do an auto-generated mask for you. So the smart masks. So you can do smart masks depending on the bake that you have. So that's why it's so important to bake your models in Substance Painter, to get those informations and so that Substance Painter knows where to place all their masks and where it's appropriately placed. So it's important to bake them. So for this model, as I had here as an example, this is just a low poly model. So basically what I'm talking about is that it was just baked low poly, and it wasn't baked like I have a high poly. It was just purely low poly model, and I just baked it for 4K. As long as you have a bake on the information of your 3D model, That's basically the information that's basically the only information that you need to create a much more realistic approach on the masking part, and you can go crazy with this one. There's a lot of possibilities. So that's how I did my texturing on most of my assets, is also to tell stories, and at the same time, if you do texturing, you have to look at references. References are very important if you do texturing, because it's also, you're trying to tell a story at the same time. You don't want to have too much detail on your model, because it's just gonna look very noisy. And when I talk about really noisy, if you go here to normal maps, if you place so much layers onto it and stuff like that, it's just gonna go crazy noisy, noisier than this one. In fact, as much as possible, you have to look at this and look at your height maps. Sorry about that, height maps. What else? So yeah, that's basically it. So that's how I did my texturing. And oh, one more thing I almost missed is that if you go here, if you go to Pixel right here. So in Quixel, they have these things called decals, right? So you can place decals. It's either you can place this as create a material in Unreal Engine 4, create a material, set it as a decal, and place this manually inside Unreal Engine so that you have a much more artistic view of it onto the final model. You can do that, or you can just place more decals onto your model while production modeling. So we have a bunch of decals already available here. So all you have to do is basically download these and go to your brush, and when you go to your, okay, so hold on a sec. So all you have to do is go to your brush and hold on a sec, and you have to place, so yeah, go to your brush. All you have to do is, and then once you get the imported textures, you place them in here, and you can use them as decals right here. But just like I said, I think, yeah, just like I said, I don't think if I didn't said this, but Substance Painter already has decals on leaks, like rust, and all those crazy amazing stuff with this new update, which is great. The Substance already added that. So as a sample, so you can, just like I said, you can place all the textures from Quixel, and then you do a create tool. So that's what I did. So once you create a tool, I got something like this, from importing all the textures and just having this tool. So if I press this tool right here, give me a moment. Okay, so now we have the mask. This mask is basically just looking at where it's going to, this is only the area where it's going to place the material from this one right here. So if you press this one right here, give it a moment because my computer's being a dick. Oops, sorry for cursing again. There you go. Pretty simple. Easy as that. So, easy as bananas. You can do decals inside Substance Painter, make it much more quicker, but you have more artistic control if you actually add decals inside a game engine, or if you're not doing this inside a game engine, or if you're doing this as cinematic. It's always great if you add the decals, or like pre-add the decals, and just from there you can create more assets quickly and much more efficient this way if you're dealing with realistic assets. So for stylized, I also have a different workflow for that. Basically, the end of my breakdown from introduction to concepting and reference board, from blocking out the scene and draft lighting, and then modeling workflow, and then my UV workflow to do the textures, and finally the texturing workflow to make everything much more efficient. So thank you so much guys for watching, and I really hope that you learned something on this breakdown. And if you're okay, so if you're asking about the grass is actually just a bunch of grass that I used in Pixel Megascans. So you can just grab a bunch of grass and stuff like that. But you can always create your own grass inside Substance Designer or ZBrush, and then do a bake down on a plane. And once you bake those down onto a plane, you already have a texture for that if you're using the ZBrush workflow. If you bake that down inside to a plane, and then you have now a texture of the leaves and all the things that you're going to use for foliage. Or you can use the Substance Painter workflow. It's much more better. It's a PBR workflow. It's much efficient. So you can use that. Go to Maya and place individual leaves properly on cards that are properly bent with good poly count amount, not too high, not too low. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys on my next one if I have more breakdowns. Bye.